I want to please welcome in our guest because I DM'd him on Twitter. He hit me back right away. So appreciate him for that. And we try to do this every single week whoever the Lions are playing. We always try to reach out to local beat writers, and luckily Tyler hit me back, and he was like more than welcome to join the show. So I appreciate him for that. For those that are watching, we have over 400 people in here live. Subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate you for tuning in. But please welcome to the show, covers the Vikings and the NFL draft for A to Z Sports and many other outlets. Let me get him on here, Mr. Tyler. And Tyler, I'm going to pronounce this. Is it Forness?
Spot on, man. Spot on. Well done.
Jeff.
All right. Hey, we're good. We're good. Welcome to the show, Tyler. Appreciate you, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, gentlemen. It's an exciting time for both of these squads right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is. And I like I said before, we'd love to have local beat writers on just to kind of get your opinion on this, because we talk a lot of Lions. We have kind of I don't want to say just one perspective, but you know how it is.
Absolutely.
We talk a lot of Lions. Yeah. I want to ask you this week, and I'll just start off with kind of some of the injuries, because I see Aaron Jones. He's dealing with something. At first, I thought it was a hip, then it turned kind of a hamstring. Can you just kind of give an injury update for at least for Lions fans and maybe even some Vikings fans listening and watching, but guys that are expected to play and some guys that might not play this weekend?
So the biggest one that's not going to play is linebacker Blake Cashman. And Cashman, Vikings signed him this offseason, 3-year deal worth slightly over $22 million. And he's been a godsend for this franchise on the second level, being able to do a lot of those coverage things that the Vikings just weren't able to do last year. And he complements Ivan Pace Jr. really well. So having him out is going to be a big loss. How big of a loss? I'm not really sure. This Lions team is very weird in the fact that they are more efficient, like twice as efficient running the ball than they are passing the ball when you look at EPA per play in neutral situations. So having Ivan Pace Jr. in there is going to be really nice because he's really good at stopping the run, because he's 5'10", 230, and he can just dip under defensive linemen or offensive linemen to be able to get into the backfield and make plays. So that'll be interesting to kind of keep an eye on. But if you have like a lot of inbreakers, which the Lions do, and you can maybe exploit some of that, I think that's an area where the Lions could maybe take advantage. But as you said, Aaron Jones, so the hip injury, like where the hip and the leg connect, they're like the hamstrings right there. So initially they thought it was a hip, but it's that it is the hamstring where it connects. So he's questionable. It sounds like he's going to play. Rap sheet said it feels like he's going to play. The vibes are he's going to be there, and it'll be a big addition for the Vikings. They are significantly more explosive and more efficient with Aaron Jones in the game than without him, and that even includes the passing game where he hasn't been involved that much. So when you look at all those factors, that's good. There's also an outside chance that TJ Hawkinson plays. He did practice all week, and if he plays, it's going to be because they believe he's ready. And I'm not expecting it. I'm expecting it against the Rams on Thursday. But if he plays, it's going to be a huge addition because the middle of the field hasn't been attacked nearly as much. They don't trust the other tight ends on this roster to run the wide choice package that Hawkinson is just so lethal with. So that's going to be one to monitor. Saturday is going to be key. 3 p.m. He needs to be activated by 3 in order to play. So if they want to make it happen, that's when we'll find out. But those are the 3 really big ones. Caleb Evans, he's the fourth corner. He's played 3 defensive snaps. He's also a punt gunner. He's out with a hip injury. Not really a big loss. Pat Jones, the second, who's become a really good rotational edge rusher for this team. He's questionable as well. I'd expect him to play, and if he doesn't, well, you have Dallas Turner, who's ready to get some more snaps. So it's mainly Jones and Hawkinson that you got to worry about, and Cashman being out, it's a big deal.
Hey, Tyler, I think one of the big things too, like with this game, and like national media is taking it over and it's going, is this Brian Flores versus Ben Johnson narrative that's going on. And I think I'm excited to see it. You know, obviously the 5-0 versus 4-1, but the inside narrative is that matchup there with the Lions offense and the Brian Flores defense. I guess I just want to get your thoughts on that, because we were talking yesterday on the show a little bit about kind of the rankings, and obviously the Vikings rush defense has been elite this year so far. I think second in the NFL. And obviously the Lions with Ben Johnson, with Jameer Gibbs and that DeMont duo there. I'm interested to see how that works out, and if that's something that the Lions are able to take not advantage of because you guys are so good at it, but maybe, hey, like let's kind of take away something they're good at. What are your thoughts on this whole matchup here, and then like the running back duo to that rush defense and all of this storyline going into this game when it comes to that?
So I think you need to completely wipe last year out of your memories. Last year, the Vikings defense kind of got solved right before the Bengals game, which was 1 week before the first Vikings-Lions game. And then the second one was 2 weeks after that. That defense got found out. And the last 4 weeks of the year, they allowed an average of 30 points per game. This is a different scheme. This is what Brian Flores wanted to do last year. He didn't have the dudes for it. Now he has the dudes. So they were running a lot of Bengal Hawk where depending on where the center slides, you're going to drop two guys. And a lot of times you're dropping defensive tackles into coverage. And people were able to exploit that out in the flats because those guys just can't run out and be able to protect out there. Now they're dropping guys like Andrew Van Ginkel and Dallas Turner. And it's significantly easier for them to be able to go make those plays. So it's going to be different. They still run a lot of the same base coverages. They're running more cover 2 this year, not just Tampa 2, because Tampa 2, they ran a ton last year, and we saw like Ben Johnson, Zach Taylor just dagger them to absolute oblivion. But they're still running a lot of those coverages, but they're running a lot more varied stuff. They're running cover 1. They're running the most cover 0 of anybody in the National Football League, and they're doing it out of a lot of different looks. It's going to take Jared Goff time to figure out how they're going to be able to like disguise some of this stuff, because they're going to line up consistently with everybody at the line of scrimmage. Andrew Van Ginkel pick 6 on Aaron Rodgers. Third play of the game, they lined everybody up, blitzed them all. And then a few plays later, they lined everybody up, dropped Van Ginkel, pick 6. They baited Rodgers into that throw. So they're going to try and do some of that with Jared Goff. And one of the big things with Goff, he has historically struggled under immense pressure. What does Brian Flores love to do more than anybody in the National Football League? Blitz. He is number 1 this year again in blitz rate. I believe it's at 41%, but he's way more calculated with how he's blitzing. He is not being aggressive just to be aggressive. He's being aggressive for a purpose, and that purpose is being felt across every team that's played the Minnesota Vikings so far, and I'd expect that chess match to continue. But the big thing, as you mentioned, is the run game. And the Lions are, I like to look at things in neutral situations. So I like to look at some of the advanced metrics. EPA per play and success rate are 2 of the big ones. And when you put the win probability between 10 and 90%, so the game is still relatively in reach for the other team, because the Vikings have had 20-point leads in 3 games so far this year. And they had another 17-point lead against the New York Jets. The Vikings are number 1 in EPA per play allowed, and they are number 1 in success rate allowed. And the Lions in the run game are number 1 in EPA and success rate. Who's going to win? How is that chess match going to be factored in? Because the Vikings don't have a strong defensive line. What they do is they have smart players who can maneuver, find cracks, and be able to go make plays in the backfield and pursuit. So that chess match is probably going to be the one that everybody's going to want to watch, because that Lions offensive line is really, really good. The backs are a classic thunder and lightning tandem who are both playing out of their minds. And if you can stop the Lions running game, I think that this win will be very easy for the Vikings. But it's going to be very hard to stop a running game that good. It's conceptually it's simple, but doing it is difficult.
Yeah, Tyler, I got to ask you about Sam Darnold here. I think Kevin O'Connell is starting to have the Kyle Shanahan type effect on quarterbacks. Obviously, it helps Sam Darnold throw into really good weapons in Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison when he gets a healthy TJ Hawkinson back, Aaron Jones. What is your confidence level that Sam Darnold can continue the success? And do you think he could be the guy under center that can get this team to the playoffs? There's a lot of season left. I know you guys are 5-0, and he's looked really good so far.
Process. It's about process, and he's utilized really good process. I've actually said on one of my own shows that he should calm it down just a little bit. He's trying to hit that intermediate deep ball. He's trying to hit that 20-yard dig. Dude, the 8-yard crosser is there. It's okay to take a layup. And I think he needs to do just a tiny bit more of that. But that aggressive mentality is really important for how Kevin O'Connell wants to play. He empowers his quarterbacks to be able to sit in a pocket and fire the ball 15 yards down the field on an in route. And the interception he threw against the Jets was a great decision. It was open. He just sailed it about 2 yards too high. And I wonder how much of that was due to the field conditions, and he got smacked in the first quarter. And we wonder how the ribs were affecting him all game. We haven't really heard from the Vikings or Darnold that they were, but they're not going to tell us. That's something that'll probably leak out come February. But the big thing with Darnold is keep utilizing the same process. Keep trying to find these plays down the field. But when they're not there, it's okay to take the check down. And Kevin O'Connell asked his offensive line to play at an extremely difficult level. He asks them to hold for 3, 4, and 5 seconds. The Vikings are top 5 in most time to pressure as far as how quickly pressure gets to the quarterback. Sam Darnold is the second highest time to throw. And with all of that, the Vikings have the 9th best pass block win rate, according to ESPN Analytics. So they judge that based on how often you can sustain blocks at 2.5 seconds or longer. They're asking these guys to play at a very difficult level, and they're doing it. Now, how much of that can be attributed to like the offensive line and the scheme? Like, that's completely up to you. But I really think that if you can get Darnold to just take 1 or 2 more layups a game and not always try to chuck the ball down the field, because he's either second or third in yards per attempt. He is chucking it. And it's okay to take 10 yards. It's okay to take 5 yards. It's something that took Patrick Mahomes a long time to really be comfortable with. And now you see the Chiefs offense. They're not really efficient or explosive. They just function because Mahomes knows when to hit it for 6 yards or hit it for 60. And that nuance, I think once Darnold kind of gets comfortable in that realm with this offense, that's when this team can really go places. If you look at some of the teams over the past 25 years, 2 come to mind. And Aaron Schatz, who's creator of DVOA, pointed this out. The 2000 Ravens and the 2015 Denver Broncos. Because the 2015 Broncos had Peyton Manning in the final year of his career. Remember, he was basically a ghost. He stunk. He could barely throw a football. 2000 right. Ravens, Trent Dilfer. Trent Dilfer was not good. He was so average or worse that they let him go after the only time a team has intentionally moved on from a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And Darnold, I think, is better than both of those guys, especially when it comes to talent. And if he can just continue to play this well and the defense keeps it up, like, this could easily be a Super Bowl winning team, but we have a lot of time and a lot of variables to factor in before we can really make a claim that this is the Super Bowl favorite. But they're easily in the top 5, top 6 of teams that could easily make that Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Tyler, and I'd love to get your thoughts on just the NFC North in general. I mean, this year with the Bears, despite the schedule they've played, but in a rookie quarterback, they're winning games. The Packers now with Jordan Love back, they're winning games. The Vikings are undefeated. The Lions are good again. So what your thoughts on just how tough this division is now? I mean, easily right now, best division in football.
So this is interesting. The Vikings are the only team so far to have beaten a team above 500. They're 2-0 against teams with records above 500. They beat the Houston Texans 34-7. They beat the Green Bay Packers 31-29. Across the rest of the division, they're 0-4. So I don't know how truly good this division is. And you mentioned it right off the top with the Bears. We don't know how good the Bears are because they've kind of beaten up on some poor teams. But at the end of the day, it's still the NFL and you still got wins. It's not like the Colts are just this abomination of a team. They should have lost to the Titans, but of course, Will Levis with his hands on his helmet, that was the image that'll last forever and ever. Yeah. I don't know how good this division is. Plus, we've only seen one division game up to this point, and it was Vikings-Packers. So I think once we really get into the meat of the division schedule, we're going to find out how truly good this division is. But right now, they have over a plus 200 point differential across the division. They're 17-5. They're playing great football, especially on the offensive side. This could be the best division in football, but I do think it's too early to make any kind of real declaration for the sole fact that we have a 6-week sample size. In the NFL, it takes like 2 weeks just to get the rust off. So I think we'll be able to answer that question better in about 3 weeks. But let me tell you, for a Vikings team to make a surprise run like they are right now, I'm not loving the fact that the other teams in the NFC North are having this kind of success.
Hey, Tyler, one thing with the Sunday game, I just had kind of a two-part question here for you. The first one, I just want to know how you feel like the game's going to go. Just high scoring, defensive game, kind of just in general. And then with that, too, kind of a score prediction for the game. I'm interested because on my end a little bit, I know the defense, the Vikings defense, I feel like we could see a higher scoring game, especially with the wide receiver core and the weapons that you guys do have there in Minnesota. And then the Aiden Hutchinson loss. It just, at least over here, it feels like the defense potentially coming off that Dallas game might be a little bit obviously down without the best defensive player on the field. So it's like, all right, this like the Lions offense is going to have to be able to score a lot of points to win this game. How do you see the kind of the game rolling out there? And then what is your score prediction for the game as well?
So let me ask you this, and as a general whole, how in the world are the Lions going to get pass rush on the edge without both Aiden Hutchinson and Marcus Davenport? Because I have not been able to kind of figure that out, but I also haven't been able to watch every single game to try and really dial in on how they're going to scheme it. Because without Hutchinson, you got to change. It feels like you got to change almost everything about how you're attacking up front. How are they going to get pressure?
I'll say this. I mean, we've been talking about it all week. Down the stretch last year, they did have Aiden Hutchinson, but one thing AG did really well was find ways to get to the quarterback. Brian Branch, Anzo, Rodrigo, a lot of the linebackers. That's what we've been coming up with. Hey, this is something, Tyler, we've been trying to figure out over here.
We've never seen it, Tyler. We've never seen this team without Aiden Hutchinson. It's new.
Yeah, it's new territory for us. The only thing we can kind of come up with, especially this week without making a trade and going and getting someone new, is there are lots of blitzes, trying to bring guys – just put as much pressure on Sam Darnold outside of the defensive line as you can. That's what AG did last year down the second half of the year. So that's the only thing we can come up with. It's going to be interesting. That's why I think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game because I don't think you're going to be able to put up that many points on this defense. Only the Green Bay Packers have put up more than 20 points, and almost all of those points were either garbage time or, hey, we're going to gift you a touchdown because our backup punt returner can't see the ball in the sun. Like, the only reason the Packers were in that game was because of that. And in the third quarter, the Vikings shut them out. So it was almost all garbage time when you talked about the fourth quarter and putting up those points. Like, Jordan Love threw for like 390 yards. 90 of them came on the final drive when they were down 9 points with 1:50 to go. And his efficiency metrics were atrocious. He did not have a good football game despite some of the gaudy volume metric stats. The Vikings have shut out much better offenses, much better quarterbacks this year, and play callers who are very creative. Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan, Bobby Slowick's not on the level of Ben Johnson, but I don't know if you can argue Ben Johnson to truly be better than either one of them on any kind of unanimous plane. Like, maybe the same level, but the Vikings destroyed both of them. And Brian Flores has the number of the Kyle Shanahan-esque style offense, which Ben Johnson is kind of like adjacent to. And I think that this is not going to be the highest scoring game. I do think it ends up being 27-20 Vikings, but the Vikings have a tendency to jump out early and often. And then the defense just takes over and does not let you get any kind of real momentum. And if you want to get momentum, you're going to have to nickel and dime your way down the field. It's not through explosives. It's through 5-yard pass, 8-yard pass, 6-yard run. And they are going to grind you to a halt. Now, with the way Dan Campbell leads this team, grit and toughness and biting kneecaps, all the memes and phrases, that's real. And if there's a team that's going to be able to do those things, I do think it's the Lions, because they have no problem just putting their head down and saying, all right, let's go. Like, we'll take your best punch and we'll fire back. Like, that kind of mantra might be what takes this defense down, but I just don't see it. This defense is so multiple. They're so confusing to everybody on the planet. And Brian Flores has 2 weeks to prepare for this. And I think he's going to have something real special for him. I think the Vikings squeak out a win. If this was in Detroit, I'd probably flip the result. But that US Bank Stadium crowd is just bonkers. And the home field advantage is real. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you guys have ever been there. It is a special environment when the Vikings are, one, playing, and two, especially when they're playing well. It is loud. It is impassioned. And remember, against the Texans, 4 consecutive not like 4 straight plays, 4 consecutive pre-snap penalties. Like on the same play, it kicked him out of field goal range. Like that's ridiculous. The kind of impact that this crowd has. So because it's in Minnesota, I'm leaning Vikings. But look, this is the biggest Vikings-Lions game of my lifetime. I'm 34 years old. I got to watch Barry Sanders play. I remember watching vividly when he broke that rushing title, or when he broke 2,000 yards against the Jets. Never has there been a game other than the game where Chris Carter caught his 1,000th catch. Never has there been a game this big between these two teams, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, I got to ask you for fantasy purposes, at least, Aaron Jones, he did practice Friday, but he was deemed as questionable for Sunday. Is this going to be a heavy Ty Chandler game, or are we going to see some Cam Akers who you guys just traded for? Is it going to be running back by committee, or because Ty Chandler did look good when Alexander Madison went down last year when he got the heavy workload? Are we going to see a good amount of Cam Akers on Sunday?
No, I think they traded for Cam Akers strictly for depth purposes. And the only way that he gets significant playing time is if Aaron Jones goes down and Ty Chandler struggles as like the lead dog, because Chandler's a great complimentary back right now, but he never had a heavy workload in college. He only, across 5 seasons, he only carried the ball about 600 times. That's not exactly a hefty workload. And coming up with the Vikings, he's had like one game where he's had over 20 carries, and that was against the Bengals last year, over 120 yards and a touchdown. He looked really good. But he still struggles a little bit with vision and zone concepts. But if you get him on a toss sweep or a gap run, he's going to pulverize you. And he's got elite level quickness and explosiveness to be able to take advantage of some of those things. But if Jones doesn't play, I would consider starting Chandler. But I wouldn't touch Cam Akers right now with a 10-foot pole as for fantasy purposes. But if you definitely have Jones, I would consider getting Ty Chandler as a handcuff right now.
All right. Well, we appreciate you, Tyler. You're the man. We love doing this because it's interesting to hear your perspective on things. I mean, even, hey, if we think the Lions are going to win, you think the Vikings are going to win, at least picking your brain is great. So we appreciate you. Check out Tyler's stuff at TheRealForno on X. Give him a follow. And appreciate your time, Tyler, as always.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have yourself a great night and enjoy the game on Sunday.
Let's go.
Appreciate it, Tyler.
Mr. Tyler Forness. By the way, I know Lions fans in the chat there, they're going to disagree. They're going to disagree, and it's funny. I love the disagreement. That's why I enjoy, and we do this every single week. We talk to different beat writers, and we do it to get a different perspective. Hey, what's going on there? It's Jeff Iafrate. Appreciate you for finishing the video. You can check out one of the videos here suggested, or show support by commenting, liking, and subscribing. And buy your merchandise, officialctsports.com.